Hi guys, it's Sarissa with Immerse Photography, and I am so excited that you're watching this video because chances are either you are about to get a new camera or you're about to buy one for someone else, and that is so exciting. I'm going to help you ask yourself some questions so that you can make the most informed camera decision, because the camera that someone who's hoping to go pro is going to need is going to be very different from the camera that a new mom is going to need. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to help you ask some questions so that you can make the best decision for you. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to think about, who am I buying this camera for? What are their needs? So once you kind of have that in the back of your mind, you can use that information to guide all the other decisions that you're going to be making today. So the first thing is, who is my photographer? The second thing is, what brand do I want to go with? There's lots of different options for camera brands, but the two most well-known are Canon and Nikon. Now, I shoot exclusively on Nikon, but many of my friends use Canon, and they're excellent cameras as well. So either Nikon or Canon are going to be the two brands that I suggest that you stick with. There are other options, and when you're at the store, they may try to sell you on those other options. I personally stick with Nikon or Canon. Remember that. Now, the next thing you need to think about is the camera body that you're going to invest in. Now, this is what the camera body looks like, and you'll see it has no lens on it. It's the camera body. And this is where all the meat of your camera is going to be. So it's where you're going to put in your memory card, your battery, and it's where the data from your image is going to be stored. It's all inside this camera body. And this is going to control the size of your image. So if you're wanting to print something on a canvas or something on your wall at home, a basic entry-level model of a DSLR, that's what this is, a DSLR, a basic level model is going to be exactly what you need. And a lot of people think you have to get like the biggest and the best camera body, and unless you're going to go pro, that's just not true. In fact, what I recommend for all of my workshop participants or my friends who are texting me asking this very question, what camera do I get? I tell them to get the Nikon 3100 or the Nikon 3200. And if you're online shopping, like right now, I actually know the 32 is a little bit of a nicer camera, and it's actually cheaper right now online. So make sure that you jump on there and you're looking at those numbers to see which one is going to be a better price for you. But you can get an entry-level camera body and get excellent images. So save your money on the camera body and instead invest on the lenses. So number one, who's your photographer? Number two, what brand are you going to go with? And number three, what kind of camera body do you need to go with? I recommend the entry-level bodies. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to look at is, what lenses do you need? And this is where I think it gets kind of fun. There's lots of different lens options, and these are really what's going to control the detail and the quality of your images. Now, there's two main factors that go into making a lens purchase, and I'm going to walk you through those two options and then talk about who's going to probably want this option and who's going to want this option. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the zoom that your lens has. Typically, when you buy a camera, it comes in a kit, and you have the camera body and a battery and a memory card and then a lens that goes with it. And typically the lens is a smaller one. I actually don't have it sitting out here, but it's typically a smaller one. And it has an 18 to 55 zoom. And what that means is I can sit here and I can zoom in a little bit, or I can zoom in kind of like a medium amount. Now, that's a basic entry-level lens, and it's a great place to start. They'll also try to upsell you and add on a zoom lens. And typically what that's going to be is it's going to be like a 55 to 200. And this was the very first kit zoom. I don't use this anymore, but I still have it. This is the first zoom lens that I ever bought, and it's a 55 to 200. And basically what that means is I can zoom in a little bit, or I can zoom in a whole lot. And that's what that 200 means. So if you've got kids that you're taking pictures of on the soccer field, you're definitely going to want a lens that has a pretty decent zoom on it. So a 200 or even a 300 zoom is going to make you very happy. You still want to have that beginning lens, that 18 to 55, because you're not going to want that big zoom for everyday pictures, but you're definitely going to want to have that zoom, that little one, for your day-to-day activities. So that's a nice starting place, is this zoom lens. Now, if you have a little bit more money to invest, I recommend getting a higher quality lens, and it's going to have a little bit of a smaller zoom, but let me explain why it's important. The second factor that you need to look at on your lens is not just the zoom, but the aperture. If you took college photography classes, and you probably remember talking about like f-stops and apertures, well, that plays significantly into the quality of your images. So I'm just going to grab this lens right here. And I can see all my zoom numbers. They're on the side of my lens here, and they're on this little gold and black label. And next to those zoom numbers on my lens, I'm going to see something that says 1, ... and then this one says 4 to 5.6. And that is my aperture range for this lens. Now, if I pick up this lens, my aperture is going to be a 2.8. Very different from that one. And if I pick up this one is going to be a 1.4. Now, those three lenses are obviously very, very different. And here's why those numbers matter. The smaller the number, the less in focus your picture is going to be. Now, hang on a second. I know you're like, Sarissa, I want a picture that's in focus. I know. Bear with me. When you look at professional portraits, one of the things that really stands out to most people is, oh my goodness, the person's in focus and everything behind them's out of focus. How do you do that? It's so pretty. Well, that, my friends, is controlled by your aperture. And the smaller the number that you can get, the more you're going to be able to control that quality and the detail in your images. So after you've looked at the zoom on your lens, you need to also factor in what kind of aperture you want. So if you're taking pictures of your kids, you probably want to have those nice little portraits, and you're probably going to want to find a really small number. On most lenses, the smallest you're going to be able to get is a 3.5 on a zoom lens. Okay, so a 3.5 is a pretty good number. So the lens that I recommend for most people to upgrade to, on the Nikons at least, is a 28 to 105 zoom. So it's not a huge zoom, but it's a pretty decent zoom. And the aperture is going to be a 3.5 to 5.6. So that's going to give you a really versatile lens. So you're not going to be having to switch your lenses back and forth. It's got a pretty decent zoom and a nice aperture on it. Now, if you can invest a little bit more, I recommend scrapping those kit lenses altogether and investing in a basic prime lens. Now, here's what a prime lens means. This lens I can zoom in and out on. That means I can stay in one place and I can zoom in with my lens and zoom back out. Now, with a prime lens like this, I cannot zoom. So if I want to get closer to something, I literally have to walk closer with my camera. Or if I want to get farther away, I have to get farther away with my body before I can take that picture. I cannot zoom. But here's where the quality comes in. On this lens, I can get all the way down to a 1.4 aperture. And that basically means I can make your iris in focus and the tip of your eyelashes out of focus. I can get that skinny of an area in focus. Now, for most people, that's going to be a little bit extreme, but one of the lenses that I recommend that people start with for your first prime lens is a 35 1.8. So that means I can zoom in just a little bit, but it's still fixed. Remember, you're not physically zooming in. It's still fixed, but it's about a 35 zoom and a 1.8. That means I can get a very small area in focus. Now, that lens was my very first professional investment, and it was only a couple $100. So that's a great investment for a mom. The second lens is another good one, is a 50 millimeter. It's got about a medium zoom on it, and that also is a 1.8, and that's another really good. I think those are about $400. That's another good investment on a lens if you're wanting to do something more than the kit lenses. So as you're making your camera purchase, you need to think about who's going to be taking these pictures, what kind of brand do you want to go with, what kind of camera body do you want to go with, and then what are you going to be taking pictures of? So if you're taking pictures of your kids on the soccer field, you're going to want something with a big zoom. But if you have a little tiny baby that you're taking pictures of in their pumpkin seat, don't worry so much about the zoom and focus in more on the aperture and try to find a lens that has the smallest number possible. I know that can still be horribly overwhelming, but if you have questions, shoot me an email. I would absolutely love to help you. Now, in part 2 of this video, I'm going to talk about some of the accessories that you can get with your cameras and why some of those might be important. So, if you have found this video helpful, over here on your screen, give me a thumbs up, and if you would love to see more friendly and accessible beginning photography videos, down over here there's a follow button, and I would love it if you would join me on this journey. I hope you have fun shopping. I hope this was helpful, and I will chat with you soon. I'll see you later.